There is a power within each of us that cannot be shaken, a strength that does not come from wealth, fame, or even human understanding. That power is faith. True faith, the kind that roots itself deeply in the heart, is unshakable. It is a light that shines even in the darkest valleys, a voice that whispers courage when the storms of life roar the loudest. Living in the truth of Christ means holding on when everything around you seems uncertain. It means trusting the unseen hand of God, knowing that He is working even when you cannot see the path ahead. Faith is not a fleeting feeling or a hope that wavers with the wind. It is a commitment, a choice to stand firm on the promises of God. When life tests you with trials, when fear threatens to overtake your heart, faith keeps you steady. It is the anchor that holds your soul, the shield that protects you from despair. To live in the truth of Christ is to remember that His word is alive and powerful, and His promises never fail. It is to let His truth shape your thoughts, your actions, and your decisions so that nothing can sway you from the path He has laid before you. There will be moments when doubts rise like waves, when questions pierce your mind, and when the world seems louder than God's voice. But unshakable faith does not run from these challenges. It leans into them, it embraces them, and it trusts that God's wisdom surpasses human understanding. Faith in Christ gives you courage to face injustice, hope in moments of despair, and peace when chaos surrounds you. It transforms your weakness into strength and your fear into boldness. Living in this truth is not passive. It is active. It demands that you speak life where there is death, sow love where there is hatred, and bring light where there is darkness. It requires surrendering your own will to His, allowing your heart to be molded by His word. And when you do, you become a living testimony of His power, a witness to the world of a faith that cannot be shaken, a faith that endures through every season. Remember that you are not alone. The same God who calmed the seas, who healed the broken, who conquered death Himself, walks beside you. When you lean on Him, you will find strength beyond measure, courage beyond understanding, and joy that no circumstance can take away. To live in the truth of Christ is to rise above fear, to embrace hope, and to shine His light in a world desperate for it. It is to be unshakable, unwavering, and unstoppable because your foundation is not in this world. It is in the eternal truth of Jesus Christ. Faith is not something we feel only when life is easy. It is the steady, unyielding force that keeps us rooted when everything around us seems to be shaking. True faith in Christ is like an anchor dropped deep into solid rock, holding a ship steady amid raging storms. Life is full of challenges, moments when the winds of uncertainty howl and the waves of fear and doubt crash against us. In those moments, a shallow faith will falter, but a faith that is grounded in the truth of Christ remains steadfast. This kind of faith is not dependent on circumstances or fleeting emotions. It is a conscious decision to trust in the unchanging nature of God. It is built on the knowledge that He is faithful, His promises are true, and His power surpasses every human limitation. When we anchor ourselves in Him, no trial can uproot us. An unshakable faith does not ignore reality. It faces it head on. It does not pretend that difficulties do not exist, but it chooses to respond with trust rather than panic. When loss comes, when pain strikes, or when confusion clouds our path, faith reminds us that we are not alone, that God is walking beside us every step of the way. It is a quiet yet powerful confidence that the storms we endure have purpose, and that the one who holds the universe also holds our lives. Faith is strengthened in adversity. Just as a tree grows deeper roots when the wind blows against it, our trust in God grows when we remain faithful in times of trial. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to lean more fully on Him, to rely not on our own understanding, but on His wisdom and guidance. Faith anchored in Christ also transforms our perspective. It allows us to see beyond immediate struggles and recognize the eternal truths that guide our lives. We begin to understand that setbacks are temporary, and difficulties, though painful, can shape us into vessels of strength, patience, and perseverance. When we focus on the unchanging nature of God rather than the fluctuating nature of circumstances, our hearts find peace. This peace is not passive. It empowers us to act courageously, to continue walking the path He has set before us, and to face each day with confidence. An unshakable faith equips us to stand firm even when the world seems chaotic. It gives us resilience to endure disappointments, wisdom to navigate uncertainty, and hope to keep moving forward when every sign seems to point to despair. Living with this kind of faith is a daily practice. It requires choosing to trust God's promises repeatedly, especially when doubts try to creep in. It is strengthened through prayer, reflection on His Word, and the remembrance of His past faithfulness. Every answered prayer, every moment of guidance and protection serves as evidence of His unwavering presence, deepening our trust and anchoring us more securely. Faith becomes a lens through which we view every aspect of life. Instead of being overwhelmed by fear, we approach challenges with confidence, knowing that God is greater than any obstacle. Instead of being shaken by uncertainty, we rest in His sovereignty. Instead of being defeated by failure, we rise with the assurance that His grace is sufficient for every need. An unshakable faith does more than sustain us. It inspires those around us. When others witness a life anchored in Christ, steadfast and unwavering despite hardship, it becomes a testimony of God's power and love. Our stability encourages others to seek the same refuge in Him, creating a ripple effect of trust, hope, and courage. Faith becomes not only a personal anchor, but a beacon of light for a world often tossed by fear and confusion. In living with unshakable faith, we reflect the truth of Christ, demonstrating that no matter what comes our way, a life rooted in Him cannot be shaken, uprooted, or defeated. Trusting God beyond what we can see or understand is one of the greatest challenges and the most profound blessings of a life rooted in Christ. It is easy to believe in Him when everything is going smoothly, when doors open effortlessly, and when the path ahead seems clear. But true faith is revealed when we are faced with uncertainty, when the way forward is clouded, and when our own understanding fails to provide answers. To live in the truth of Christ means to place our trust not in what we can control or comprehend, but in the one whose wisdom is infinite, whose power knows no limits, and whose love never falters. It is a decision to surrender our need for certainty and embrace the reality that God is always at work, even when His plan is hidden from our eyes. Trusting God requires patience and perseverance. It requires resisting the urge to demand immediate solutions, to take matters into our own hands, or to measure our success by visible outcomes. Life is full of moments that test our confidence in His timings. Sometimes doors remain closed longer than we hope, prayers seem unanswered, and situations appear hopeless. Yet faith calls us to remember that God's perspective is eternal and His timing is perfect. What may seem like delay or silence is often preparation, shaping our hearts, refining our character, and aligning circumstances according to His divine purpose. Trusting Him means believing that nothing in our lives is wasted, that every challenge, setback, and struggle is part of a larger tapestry woven by a loving and omniscient Creator. This kind of trust transforms the way we live each day. Instead of being paralyzed by fear or worry, we are empowered to act boldly, confident that God is guiding our steps. Decisions that once caused anxiety become opportunities to exercise faith, knowing that He is directing our paths. We begin to recognize His hand in small details as well as in major life events, and our hearts grow more attuned to His presence. When we trust God beyond our understanding, we stop clinging to illusions of control and start living with freedom and peace, unburdened by the weight of uncertainty. Faith does not eliminate difficulty, but it equips us to face every circumstance with courage and hope, anchored in the knowledge that God is working all things together for good. Trusting God also deepens our relationship with Him. It invites intimacy as we come to rely on Him not just for provision or protection, but for guidance, wisdom, and understanding. And in moments of doubt, we learn to seek His counsel through prayer, meditation on His Word, and reflection on His faithfulness in our past experiences. Each answered prayer, each instance of divine guidance reinforces our confidence and strengthens the roots of our faith. Over time, trust becomes instinctive. It becomes the lens through which we interpret life, shaping our responses to challenges, disappointments, and even triumphs. Living with this trust is an active choice, a daily commitment to lean on God's wisdom rather than our own. It means speaking words of faith even when circumstances scream doubt, acting with courage when fear beckons, and resting in the assurance that His plans are higher than ours. It is a trust that transcends understanding, a confidence that God sees the beginning and the end, knows the unseen, and orchestrates every detail with perfect love. When we embrace this truth, our lives are no longer dictated by anxiety, fear, or confusion. Instead, we move forward with clarity, peace, and unwavering confidence, knowing that our steps are guided by a God who never fails and whose understanding surpasses all human comprehension. This trust becomes a light to others, showing the world that faith is not blind, but grounded in the certainty of God's character. When we walk confidently in His guidance, we inspire others to seek the same reliance, to cast their anxieties upon Him, and to experience the peace that comes from surrendering control to the One who holds all things in His hands. Trusting God beyond our understanding is the essence of unshakable faith, the daily practice of living in the truth of Christ, and the key to a life that stands firm no matter what storms may come. Faith is not meant to be hidden away or kept as a private comfort. It is alive, dynamic, and calls us into action. Living in the truth of Christ means that our faith must be expressed through our daily lives, shaping our words, our decisions, and the way we interact with the world. It is not enough to believe in God silently while remaining passive in the face of injustice, apathy, or need. True faith compels us to act, to sow seeds of love, hope, and kindness, and to be instruments of God's light in every situation. When we allow our belief in Christ to influence our choices and our behavior, faith transforms from an internal conviction into a living, tangible force that can change lives. Faith in action begins with small steps, often unnoticed by the world, yet powerful in the eyes of God. It is offering encouragement to the weary, forgiveness to those who have wronged us, and service to those in need. Each act becomes a testimony of the truth of Christ, demonstrating that faith is not abstract or theoretical, but real and practical. When we make decisions grounded in God's principles rather than in fear, convenience, or self-interest, we begin to reflect His character to others. This act of faith strengthens not only our own spiritual journey, but also inspires those around us to consider the transforming power of a life lived in Christ. Living out faith requires courage, for it often goes against the currents of culture, peer pressure, and the temptations of self-centered thinking. To embody Christ's truth is to choose integrity over compromise, love over indifference, and hope over despair, even when it is unpopular or difficult. Our actions become a reflection of our trust in God, and through them, His truth is made visible. When challenges arise, it is faith that empowers us to respond with patience, compassion, and perseverance, rather than reacting with anger, frustration, or resignation. Faith in action turns ordinary moments into extraordinary opportunities to honor God and to serve as a witness to His enduring presence and power. Furthermore, living in faith requires consistency. It is not enough to act righteously when it is convenient or when we hope others will notice. Unshakable faith calls for a life that is consistently aligned with God's truth, in private and in public, in times of abundance and in times of scarcity. It is in this consistency that others see the strength of Christ at work within us, a steadfastness that does not depend on circumstances. Each day becomes an opportunity to exercise faith in practical ways, through our choices, our interactions, and the way we respond to adversity. This daily practice,